It was a cold winter night when everything began. I had just moved into a small rental house on the outskirts of town. The house was old and didn't look like much, but I was hoping for a fresh start. Everything about it felt a little off, but I thought it was just the usual unease that comes with moving into a new place. That night I went to bed early, hoping to get some rest after a long day of unpacking. The wind outside howled, rattling the windows, but the house itself was quiet. I curled up under the thick blankets and let my body relax into the warmth, feeling safe from the cold night air. It wasn't long before I drifted to sleep, the soft ticking of the clock beside my bed the only sound in the room. But soon I felt something I couldn't explain at first. It wasn't loud or frightening, but there was an odd pressure at the foot of my bed, like the weight of something small was pressing down on the blankets. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured it was just the house settling, or maybe a trick of my tired mind. But then it became more distinct, a dragging sensation, as if something was slowly, carefully crawling up the bed. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. It felt like I was stuck, like I couldn't even blink. My chest tightened with fear. The dragging continued, slow and deliberate, and it was getting closer. The worst part was the sound. I could hear it now. A faint scraping, like nails on fabric. A soft but persistent sound that made my skin crawl. My legs felt cold, and I could feel something clawing at them, pulling itself upward with a slow, deliberate force. I tried to kick, to yell, but nothing happened. It was as if my body was frozen in place, unable to move or react. The pressure on my legs intensified, and I could feel the nails, or whatever it was, scraping against my skin through the blanket. It wasn't sharp, but it was heavy and cold, dragging its way up my body inch by inch. My heart pounded in my chest, and my breath became shallow and quick. I could barely breathe. I wanted to scream, but my throat was tight and my mouth wouldn't open. My mind screamed for me to wake up, to escape whatever was happening, but my body felt like it was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, it stopped. The weight at the foot of the bed lifted, and everything went still. I lay there, gasping for air, my heart hammering in my chest. The room was silent, the only sound the wind still howling outside. I reached for the bedside lamp, my hands trembling, and flicked it on. The light flooded the room, but there was nothing there. No creature, no shadow. Just my room, just the bed, just me. But then I looked down at the sheets. There, at the foot of the bed, were 3 long scratch marks, deep enough to tear through the fabric. The sheets weren't just wrinkled. They were damaged, torn by something sharp. I stared at them, my mind racing. I had no explanation for what I had felt or seen. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I told myself it was just a strange dream, something my mind had cooked up after a long day of unpacking. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a dream. I could still feel the cold, the weight, and the nails dragging across my legs. For the next few nights, I kept the lights on, hoping that whatever it was would stay away. I convinced myself it was all in my head, but each night, as I lay there in the dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. It started the same way, a small pressure at the foot of the bed. I tried to ignore it, hoping it would go away. But then, slowly, the scratching began again. Soft at first, then growing louder, dragging its way up the bed. My legs felt cold, the same chilling weight pressing against them. This time I could feel it more clearly. I wasn't dreaming. This wasn't just a trick of my mind. I could feel the claws, or whatever they were, scraping against my legs, pulling up slowly, deliberately, as if it was taking its time, enjoying the fear. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. It was like I was trapped in my own body, forced to feel everything but unable to stop it. I wanted to pull away, to jump out of bed, but my body wouldn't listen. The scratching continued, and the cold sensation grew stronger, as if the creature was closer now. And then, just like before, it stopped. The weight lifted, and the room went quiet again. My chest was tight, my heart pounding. I sat up, shaking, and turned on the light. There was nothing, no one there. But once again I saw the scratch marks, 3 deep rips in the sheets, as though something had been dragging its claws through them. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't care if I had to leave everything behind. I packed up what I could and left that house, never looking back. To this day, I can't explain what happened there. Maybe it was something in the house, something tied to its past. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But I'll never forget the sensation of those claws, the cold pressure and the dragging sound. It happened when I was 15, one of those summers where the days felt endless and everything seemed perfectly normal. I'd wake up late, ride my bike around the neighborhood with friends, and then end the day with late-night movies or video games, trying to stay awake as long as I could before sleep finally took over. That night, like most others, I spent hours scrolling through my phone. I couldn't even remember what I was looking at, just passing time, until my eyes started to feel heavy. After a while, I tossed my phone onto the nightstand, turned off the lamp, and lay back, sinking into the comfort of my bed. The room was pitch black. The only sound was the old air conditioner rattling softly in the window, trying its best to keep the warm, summer air at bay. It was one of those nights when the tiredness pulls you under before you even realize it, the kind where you drift off without a second thought. I don't even remember when exactly I fell asleep, but I do remember waking up. And when I woke up, it wasn't like I had just stirred from a dream. It was sharp, sudden, like someone had snapped their fingers right in front of my face. I opened my eyes, and everything looked the same as it had when I went to sleep. My room was exactly as I'd left it. Faint outlines of furniture against the dark, the glow of the alarm clock casting a dim light on the walls. But something was off. There was a strange feeling in the air, something I couldn't quite place. At first, it was just a slight heaviness in my chest, like I'd been lying wrong or something. I tried to roll over, shift in bed, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move. My arms and legs felt stiff, like they were stuck to the mattress, held down by some invisible weight. It was as though my body just wouldn't listen. The more I tried to move, the worse it got. Panic started to creep in slowly, like a cloud gathering on the horizon. I wanted to call out, to scream for help, but my throat felt like it had closed up. I couldn't get any sound out. I could feel my heart racing, pounding against my ribs, and I swear it was so loud it almost drowned out the hum of the air conditioner. Then came the worst part. It wasn't a physical sensation, not exactly. It felt like something was in the room with me. Something I couldn't see, but could feel pressing down on me. The air felt thicker, colder, like it was wrapping around me, smothering me. It wasn't just the heaviness in my chest anymore. It was more than that. It was like I was underwater, drowning but unable to move, unable to even breathe. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. The water-like pressure against my skin, muffling everything. The air in my lungs felt like it was being squeezed out of me, my chest tightening more and more with each passing second. It felt like I was sinking deeper, the world slipping away. The harder I fought to wake up, to move, the worse it got. And then, just as the panic reached its peak, I saw something. It wasn't clear at first. It was just a shadow, but a strange one. It wasn't a person, not exactly, but something darker than the rest of the room. It was hanging just beyond the foot of my bed, near the corner where the dim light from the alarm clock barely touched. It was a shadow that seemed to flicker, shifting and changing as I stared at it. It didn't feel like it was just a shadow. It was alive in a way, moving as though it had a mind of its own. The longer I watched it, the more I felt like it was watching me too. The pressure on my chest kept building, and my vision started to blur. For a second, I truly thought I might not make it out of this. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The weight lifted, the pressure vanished. I could breathe again. I gasped for air, sitting up so fast that I almost fell off the side of the bed. My heart was still racing, but I could breathe again, and that's all that mattered. I turned on the lamp. The room looked exactly the same as it had before. All the furniture in place, the same faint glow from the alarm clock. The shadow was gone. There was nothing there. But even though the room seemed normal, everything felt different, like something had changed, something I couldn't explain. I didn't know what had happened, and I didn't want to know. I couldn't go back to sleep after that. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the air conditioner. The rest of the night passed in uneasy silence, with my mind racing and my body still trembling from the experience. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it had just been a nightmare, maybe something my overactive imagination had come up with. I was tired. I'd been glued to my phone for hours, and it could have just been a bad dream. I had no reason to think otherwise, but deep down, I knew better. I knew something strange had happened. It wasn't just a dream. I could still feel it in my chest, that suffocating weight. Even when the sun was up, even when everything seemed perfectly normal, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I tried to forget about it. I went on with my life like everything was fine, but it wasn't. Something had happened that night, and I couldn't just let it go. For weeks after, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I lay in bed, I would stare at the shadows in the corner of the room, half expecting to see that same dark shape hovering at the foot of my bed. I never saw it again, but the feeling never left. It's been years now, and I still think about that night. I've had plenty of nights since then where I've been scared, where I felt like something wasn't quite right, but nothing has ever been as intense as that one experience. And every so often, when the room is quiet, when the lights are off, I'll feel that same suffocating pressure, just for a moment. I'll hold my breath and wait for it to pass, and I wonder if one day it will come back.